Believe it or not, the UK is one of the biggest markets for convertibles in Europe. Yeah, even when the weather is like this. It was chucking it down this morning, but it's stopped now, so that's fine. Two-seater sports cars with retractable roofs like the Mazda MX-5, the Audi TT, the Mercedes SLC, the Porsche 718 Boxster make up a decent chunk of convertible sales. And if you want something along those lines, you might also want to consider this, the BMW Z4. But before I tell you how seriously you should consider this car, I simply must tell you we have many more videos coming up on Carbuyer, so you might as well subscribe to the YouTube channel and click the bell icon so you get notifications for every time a video goes live. The Z4 feels like it was made to a very traditional sports car formula. There are two seats, a petrol engine under a long bonnet at the front, rear-wheel drive and a fabric roof rather than a folding metal one. The previous model had a metal hardtop, but swapping it for a canvas version has saved weight and increased boot space. The only major thing missing from an enthusiast shopping list is a manual gearbox. The Z4 comes with an 8-speed automatic only. You have the choice of a 4-cylinder 2-litre petrol engine or a 6-cylinder 3-litre petrol engine, and there are 3 trim levels to choose from. The 2-litre is available in Sport and M Sport form, while the 3-litre model comes in its own M Performance trim. Now this is the 30i, which has the more powerful version of the 2-litre engine on offer. And oh, I know what you're thinking. I want a 3-litre and I want it now. Well, calm yourself, Veruca Salt, because in some ways, choosing a model with a smaller engine does make sense. This has 254 brake horsepower, does 0 to 62 in 5.4 seconds, which makes it a very quick car. Now the entry level has 194 brake horsepower. While it is still as fun to drive, having the extra 60 bhp does make it feel that little bit nicer. Plus, it doesn't really affect the fuel economy, which is officially around 39 miles per gallon. Now you'll need to pay £7 more if you want the range-topping M40i, if you're desperate for the 6-cylinder 3-litre engine. That will give you 355 brake horsepower and has a 0 to 62 time of 4.5 seconds. But arguably, the biggest reason why you're going to want to buy that one is because of how it sounds. However, yes, there is a however, because while the M40i may be the fastest and most tuneful version of the Z4, the bigger engine also makes it heavier than the others. The extra weight, as well as the extra power, means it's less economical, and while you might not care about that too much, it also means the M40i is slightly less nimble and in some ways less fun to drive than the lighter versions. For potential buyers, how the Z4 handles is going to be the most important thing about it, especially when so many of them will be considering a Porsche Boxster. So, is the Z4 better to drive than the Boxster? Well, no, not quite. I mean, it's very fun to drive. It's much better than the previous model. The grip is very good. There's hardly any lean when you go around corners. The steering feels accurate, but it doesn't feel quite as agile as the Boxster. And the steering wheel doesn't really quite tell you as much about what the front wheels are doing as it does in the Porsche. Combine that with the fact that there is no manual gearbox option in the Z4. It's all automatic. Plus the seating position isn't quite as good. So it doesn't really feel as involving or as engaging as the Boxster. An adaptive suspension system is standard on the M40i, but you can also add it as an option on the other models. It allows you to optimise the stiffness of the suspension depending on how you're driving the car, be it quick cornering or motorway cruising.
Oh, what's that? Just putting the old roof down. You know how it is. Thankfully, it will do it in 10 seconds and up to speeds of 31 miles an hour. So actually, I don't actually have to stop to get it done. But while we're on the subject of cruising, I thought I might stop and talk to you about what the car is like to live with when you're not fully focused on just how fast it drives. short answer is it's very comfortable. Combined with the automatic gearbox, which is very smooth, it makes the new Z4 the kind of car that I would happily do long journeys in. The seats are very comfortable. We have the optional comfort pack, which means that they can be adjusted electrically, and also they have lumbar support, which is lovely. Now that pack also includes heated steering and a wind deflector. And this car is remarkably quiet with the roof down, so you don't even have to raise your voice when you're talking to someone in the passenger seat. But having the wind deflector adds to the serenity, so it's nice and peaceful, even when you're on the motorway. Look around the rest of the cabin and you've got a fully digital instrument panel behind the steering wheel. Next to it on the left, you've got a 10.25-inch infotainment screen, and together they form the BMW Live Cockpit Pro system, which comes as standard in all Z4s and is actually one of the best infotainment systems on the market. And having it fully digital like this helps make it feel very modern. Oh, and we also have wireless phone charging and a Harman Kardon sound system, which for me, I'm one of those people who likes to sing along in the car, and having a good sound system behind my voice helps me release my inner Ariana Grande, which I'm sure the cameraman Phil really appreciates. Didn't you, Phil? That was a nod. Loves it. I'm afraid the general look of the interior is one area where the Z4 lets me down a little bit. Yes, it's very nicely laid out, well built, well finished, but it's a sports car. For a sports car, it feels a bit boring. This kind of has a generic VIP executive lounge in an airport type vibe. The interior of an Alpine A110 or the Boxster definitely feels sportier, like they've got a sense of flair and a sense of occasion, whereas this one doesn't. It's very similar to a 3 Series, which is good and usable and brilliantly built, but this is a sports car. It's supposed to feel exciting. I mean, thank goodness for this magma red leather, because if this was all dark and black, it would be very dull in here.
The entry-level sport model costs around 39 grand and comes with 18-inch alloy wheels, sports seats, LED headlights, the Live Cockpit Pro system, cruise control, air conditioning and ambient lighting. Upgrading to M Sport costs around 2 grand, and the main changes are a body kit that gives the car a more muscular look, M Light alloy wheels, firmer M Sport suspension and some different interior trim materials. The range-topping M Performance model has 19-inch alloy wheels and the adaptive suspension setup as standard, plus some upgraded M Sport parts for improved performance. It's only available with the most powerful 3-litre engine, so comes with a starting price of around £51,000. BMW bundles options together into several different packs, loosely around themes like technology or comfort. The M Sport Plus pack allows you to get most of the major M Performance upgrades, including the wheels, brakes, electric diff and adaptive suspension from the M40i model without the bigger engine. There's a lot to choose from, but you can dramatically increase the total cost of the car very quickly once you start adding the packs, so be careful.
The final thing I want to show you is the boot, which is a big improvement on the previous model, which helps make the new Z4 more practical and usable for trips away. Another advantage of swapping the folding metal roof for the fabric version, as well as taking away some of the weight, it also frees up more boot space even when the roof is down. We've got 281 litres of boot space, which is more than an Audi TT. It's also a practical shape as well, which is very good for a convertible.
Our car also has the optional ski hatch, so you can accommodate some longer things if you need to. A Boxster has roughly the same total capacity, but it's split into 2, a space under the bonnet and another one behind the engine at the back, so it's not really as practical.
Right, let's run through our deal makers and deal breakers.
The range-topping 6-cylinder engine might have 355 brake horsepower, but the smaller 2-litre engines provide plenty of power too, and the handling is very nicely balanced. The Z4 is quiet and smooth on the move, and the car is very comfortable on long journeys. The interior materials are beautifully finished and the car feels very solidly made. While it's undoubtedly well built, the Z4's interior could certainly feel sportier and have more in way of design flair. The Z4 is fun to drive, but with no manual gearbox option and a distinct lack of steering feel, there's alternatives like the Mazda MX-5 and most notably the Porsche Boxster. They're ultimately more engaging. The new BMW Z4 is a big step forward from the old one. Getting rid of the folding metal roof has made it a better drive, it's more practical, the engines on offer are very impressive, and the handling is a lot more balanced than before. Now, the nature of the Z4's improvement just goes to show that BMW want to directly compete with Porsche rather than Mercedes this time round. Unfortunately, it's not as good to drive as the Boxster, but it's more fun than the Mercedes SLC. The high levels of comfort and luxury have unfortunately been let down by the conservative interior styling, but it makes it the sort of car you would happily do long journeys in without feeling tetchy. The same can't be said for other stripped back sports cars like the Mazda MX-5 or the Alpine A110. I think what we have here then is a really impressive all-rounder. If you want a smart, comfortable, luxurious two-seater convertible, then there's not much more at this price that's any better than the Z4. But there's one question you should ask yourself before buying one of these. Would I rather have a Boxster? If you enjoyed this video, then why not watch our Alpine A110 review and our convertibles playlist. Thanks for watching.